plunging into something, well, fascinating and honestly pretty misunderstood. A substance with a real dual identity. It's got this surprisingly long history in medicine, but today it's mostly surrounded by quite a bit of stigma and confusion.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We're talking about gamma-hydroxybutyrate, or GHB. You probably know it as G, and its relatives, GBL and 1,4-B.
Right.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack what G really is, where it came from, which is kind of unexpected how it works, and pull out some crucial harm reduction insights from our sources.
Exactly. And fundamentally, it's a depressant. Acts on the central nervous system.
Meaning it slows things down.
Precisely. Breathing, heart rate, those vital functions, which is exactly why overdose is so dangerous.
Okay.
But the really striking part, as you said, is the history. GHB, it's actually been used as medicine since the 1870s.
Wow, the 1870s, seriously?
Seriously.
Yeah.
And it's still prescribed today for certain sleep disorders. So it's definitely not just some modern recreational drug. It has this whole other background.
I have to admit, hearing 1870s, that completely caught me off guard. It really reframes how you think about it initially, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, so let's unpack this for you listening. While GHB is in the name everyone throws around, the sources are pretty clear. In places like Australia, what's sold as G, well, it's very rarely pure GHB.
That's a key point.
Yeah, it's almost always GBL, or 1004B. Your body actually converts these into GHB after you take them.
Right. So the end effect feels similar, but the substances themselves, they're different. Strength, dose, how long it lasts, that can all vary quite a bit.
And that difference, that's where the danger really comes in, right?
Absolutely. It raises a huge question for safe use. Our sources really hammer this home. There's a remarkably narrow window.
Between feeling good and not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Between a euphoric dose and an overdose. For all three of them, GHB, GBL, 1,4-B. And the sources also highlight why GHB gets such a bad rap sometimes. It can cause these really sudden drops in and out of consciousness. People call them blowouts.
Right, I've heard that term.
And they can be, well, incredibly confronting and, frankly, alarming to witness, which adds to the stigma.
It sounds like that unpredictable nature is a big part of the problem. And it gets even trickier when you realize G isn't just one thing, like you said.
Precisely.
What really jumped out at me from the sources was just how varied these forms are and how much that changes the risk. Pure GHB, you said, is the least strong.
Correct. Usually a white powder or a clear liquid. Tastes salty.
Okay. Then there's 1004B. The research suggests this one's more common, at least in Australia.
That seems to be the case.
Yeah.
It's described as an oily solid that melts into this thick, clear liquid. And it has a very distinct, pretty unpleasant plastic kind of taste.
Okay. But the one you really flagged is GBL.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, GBL is the strongest of the three. Significantly stronger.
Meaning you need much less.
Much less. And it's not just stronger, it's also caustic.
Caustic, as in it burns.
Yeah, literally. If it's not diluted properly, it can cause painful chemical burns in the mouth and throat.
Wow. Okay.
So that just screams, the need for incredibly precise dosing and extreme care, especially because you need smaller amounts. The line between the effect you want and a dangerous overdose can be incredibly fine. We're talking drops.
That really paints a picture of how risky the unregulated market is. You just don't know what you're actually getting or how strong it is.
Exactly.
Now, whatever form it is, the effects, they come on pretty fast.
Generally, yeah. Around 10 to 20 minutes, they peak somewhere between 45 and 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And the total sort of felt duration might be up to 5 hours.
Okay, but here's the kicker I saw in the sources. This is really important. Even if you feel okay after, say, an hour and a half, the drug is still active in your system for way longer, up to 12 hours.
Yes. That extended half-life detail is absolutely vital because it means doses can stack up.
Build on each other.
Right. Build on one another in your system without you realizing it. So the advice is clear. If you choose to redose, you must lower the amount and wait at least 1.5 to 2 hours between doses.
The sources even suggest like setting an alarm or writing down the time.
They do. Simple things to prevent an accidental overdose because the risks are severe. Unconsciousness, seizures, convulsions, even death.
And I mentioned withdrawal too, right? For long-term use.
Yeah, that's another serious point. Long-term, heavy use can lead to a withdrawal syndrome that can actually be fatal. and requires hospital management. It's not something to take lightly.
Okay, so beyond getting the dose and type right, what about mixing it with other things? The source is really stressed combination.
Huge risk factor.
Alcohol seems like the obvious one, right? Mixing depressants.
Absolutely. Alcohol and GHB is a profoundly risky combination. They amplify each other's effects. Massively increases the chance of nausea, vomiting, passing out, or worse, a fatal overdose.
Okay, standard depressant warning. But what about stimulants? Like MDMA or cocaine?
Yeah.
Sometimes people think, oh, one speeds you up, one slows you down, maybe they balance out.
That's a dangerous misconception.
Yeah.
The sources are explicit.
Yeah.
Combining them is not a safe way to, say, bring someone out of a blowout.
Right, it doesn't work like that.
No.
Yeah.
It puts immense strain on the heart. You can trigger seizures. It's just adding more unpredictable stress to the
That's
body.
good to know. And quickly, what about driving? Roadside tests?
Well, in Australia, the standard saliva tests don't actually screen for GHB.
Oh, okay.
But, and this is a big but, it's still absolutely illegal to drive under the influence of any drug, including GHB. The impairment is real. The recommendation, wait at least 24 hours after your last dose before even thinking about driving.
Got it. 24 hours minimum. So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? I mean, this deep dive into GHB, GBL, 1004B, it really shows just how complex these substances are, especially floating around an unregulated market. The sources just keep coming back to it. Precise measurement, understanding that stacking effect, knowing those dangerous combinations, it's all incredibly important if someone finds themselves navigating this.
Absolutely. Ultimately, the core insight here isn't just don't do this drug. It's recognizing how a lack of clear, accurate information in an unregulated space, how that can turn something with this complex medical past into a really significant, unpredictable danger today. Knowledge is key.
So true. What really stands out to you from all this? Maybe it's that dual history, the medicine versus the risk, or just how different those G types actually are.
Yeah, maybe those nuances.
For us, I think it's just a stark reminder that there's always more beneath the surface, you know? Things aren't always black and white.
Definitely.
So as you go about your day, here's something to maybe mull over. What else might be kind of hidden in plain sight like this? With a similar dual history medicine, risk just waiting for us to really dig in and understand its full story.